Special good morning to our listeners. Special good morning also to our viewers. Welcome to today's edition of To The Point. I'm yours as usual, GT with you this morning. Let me say good morning to those of you also via our social media platforms, whether it's a Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning to you and welcome. It's Friday, the 5th day of June 2026. On Fridays, you know, we usually host, of course, a representative of the DPM. I like to simply refer to it as the movement. This morning representing, we have, of course, with us the deputy political leader of the DPM, Mr. Arley Gill. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome. Nice to have you on the program, sir.
Good morning, GT. And it's been a while. I have not seen you. You have been a pioneer.
I think you see me all the time, but you're probably the group.
Yeah, no, yeah. You've been a pioneer. You played a great calypso and soca music. So first of all, allow me to commend you on your work that you've done for the culture and the music. So very happy to be here and to pleasant good morning to all the listeners, viewers, persons on the social media platform and so on.
Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you, sir. I think it's actually first time I'm having you on the program.
Yes, it's the very first time.
Yes. It's like a debut for me and you doing this. So
yes.
Thanks a whole lot for being here this morning. We of course, you being the political or the deputy, let me get that corrected, the deputy political leader of the DPM. How does that feel for you, sir? Being to be at that level within the DPM. That's just to get the ball rolling off the ball.
As a continuation of the political struggle, I was involved actively in politics from maybe 2001, 2002 until about 2012, 2013 or thereabouts with the National Democratic Congress. And I then stayed away from politics, active party politics, that is, for approximately 14 years. And after that hiatus, when I surveyed the political landscape of the country, I believe that fundamentally I can make a difference in the discourse. I can make a difference in the policy formation. I can make a difference in the quality of the politics and the delivery of government. And I believe that the DPM or the movement offers the best choice right now for the government and as a government for the people of Grenada in terms of development. I'm of the respectful view that the new National Party, the National Democratic Congress, have run their course. You know, they've had a fair chance of governance, and I think that at every turn, though obviously I would not, as I say to persons, we cannot say that no politician or no government has ever done anything or anything that is not good for the country. I believe to do that will be to misrepresent what has transpired, but I believe that the DPM is poised to do better than the two other political parties, so that we are on the third track. I mean, we are. I tell people we're not the third political force. I guess we are the newest political party on the scene, and I believe that we represent at this time the best option for the people of Grenada.
All right. You know, Grenadians would say, you know, political landscape is historically, you know, dominated by two-party system. What is the DPM's distinct roadmap in terms of that breakthrough as a visible, third option, rather than, you know, acting as a voter splitter? If you get the gist of my question.
Yeah, but historically, post-independence, you would have had the GULP and the GNP, and then later on you would have had the NGM, which was not just a vote splitter, but they actually in 1976 or thereabouts won seats to enter the parliament of the country. So that we do have a history of a third political party. Now, the new National Party was set up in 1983-84 post-revolution. From that NNP party, you had NNP GULP, and then from that NNP you would have had a split in 1988 or thereabouts, and then you had the formation of the NDC. And in the 1990 elections, you would have had all three parties winning seats. Yes. Again, over time, the third political party, which was the oldest at the time, the GLP, faded, and you had the emergence and then the dominance of the NNP, of the NNP and the NDC, the two political parties. You would have had the TNP, you would have had the MBPM and so on. They would have had some support here and there as a thoughtful, but nothing significant. But I believe that the DPM now provides a significant and a powerful political force to rival both NNP and NDC. And I don't think it will be an issue of split voting. I am firmly of the conviction that the DPM will form a next government.
All right, great. You know, you and the political leader, Peter Dale, were both, former members of the, or major former members of the National Democratic Congress. How does the DPM plan to capture the trust of voters? I'm still keeping my question on that level for you, Al, for a wee bit. Who may view the party as a fraction of disgruntled former Congress members?
Well, that would be a misplaced view, because for one, as I indicated before, I've been away from the politics for over a decade. Right. And both myself and Peter David, along with other colleagues, we were unlawfully expelled from the National Democratic Congress. I said unlawfully because the constitution of the NDC was not followed. But that is water under the bridge. Disgruntled? No, I am not, and we are not disgruntled. We believe that the transparency and accountability equals trust. And over the last 20 years or so, I believe that we've had a fundamental issue in Grenada with transparency in governance and accountability in governance. Okay. I also believe that the policies that were developed over time, in many respects, do not reflect the developmental needs of the Grenadian people and the Grenadian society. And as such, the movement, our policies are grounded in the betterment of the people as a whole and the country. And for one, which is maybe the subject which we would discuss a little bit later in full, I am of the respectful view, and so too is the DPM, that the youth programs that have emerged by the different administrations over the last 10, 15 years have really and truly been designed for political patronage. So a lot of the political parties, they say about the youth, everybody trying to capture the youth vote. The youth is a new, and they will make the difference. Of course, they will make the difference. But so that you find youth programs have been designed that are not sustainable, that are not developed in a way that would develop what I refer to as the total youth. So that, yes, while you would have had youth programs and so on and so forth, we believe, I am of the respectful view, that the youth programs have not been well thought out. Okay. It has not been well funded, right? And at the end of the day, there is a rush by this present administration and the administration in the past to see how much youth voters they can secure, rather than developing sustainable and viable youth programs that will ensure that our young people can have sustainable employment, that they can achieve levels of academic and technical qualifications that will set them up properly for the future. Yeah.
With the widespread anticipation of an early election cycle, what's the DPM exact level of organization readiness, if I could say that, regarding candidate selection across the 15 constituency? You being the deputy political leader, we could reference that to me.
With the exception of 2 or 3 constituencies, we have more or less settled on prospective candidates for the next general elections. And I say prospective because you really don't have candidates until nomination day, yes, so to speak, so that you would have what other political parties would refer to as caretakers and so on. Right. Of course, we are not as established as the other two political parties, but we believe we are in a good way in terms of structure and so on in most of the constituencies. And if election was to be called before Carnival, we would be able to play a good mass.
All right. We drew for a first break. Let's take it. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the point, Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back. Don't touch it now.
Welcome to the island's boldest ATV experience. The only tour daring enough to bring you this level of excitement, freedom, and adrenaline. Feel the power. Conquer rugged trails. Experience breathtaking views. Ride beyond the ordinary. Feel the power. This is not just a tour. This is the power of Ride ATV. Get ready for fun. Get ready for excitement. Get ready to ride. Book now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Ride ATV. Adventure starts here.
The Ministry of Agriculture White Potato Production Initiative is an OECS sub-regional project aimed at reducing Grenada's reliance on imported white potatoes, which in 2025 had an imported value of over 4.5 million EC dollars. The White Potato Production Initiative is part of the Ministry of Agriculture's food security drive and is being undertaken with the simultaneous cultivation of other crops such as sweet potatoes, pineapples, coconuts, carrots, and other vegetables. Other OECS countries like Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are already at an advanced stage in white potato production, with Dominica completely cutting the import of white potatoes during the first quarter of 2026. Grenada is now preparing to advance production for better output in 2027. The Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, ensuring food and nutrition security for all.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Thinking about your new home? Think easy. Think a Republic Bank Home Easy Loan. Think affordable. Think convenience. Think Republic.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3. Republic makes home easy.
Wow, that was such a breeze.
Own your home with ease.
So whether laying that first brick or purchasing an existing home, we've got you covered. Republic Bank will get you those keys hassle-free in no time.
Home is easy as 1, 2, 3.
Apply for a Home Easy Loan today for a chance to win a cash prize. Getting your new home is easy with Republic Bank.
Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, of course, to our listeners and viewers. Welcome back. It's To The Point, Classic Radio GBN TV. Let's say welcome back to Mr. Arley Gill with us this morning, the Deputy Political Leader of the DPM, or simply the movement, this morning. So welcome back. I want to focus a wee bit in this segment on the constituency of St. John, which you plan to represent, just in case election is called tomorrow. You know, tell me, you have publicly promised powerful leadership. I've certainly heard you made that statement for St. John constituency. How do you plan to unseat the current representative, Corinne James?
I think she has already unseated herself, to be honest, with her level of representation. But as I say to the persons that I've met in the constituency of St. John's, I am not campaigning to say that Miss James is a bad lady. She not good, she haven't done anything. Similarly, it is not for me to say about Mr. Dabrio that he's a bad man and so on and so forth. I'm not getting into that politics at all. I believe that everyone has value. I believe that everyone has made their contribution. It is for the constituents and the voters to determine or to decide whether or not they want to continue with the representation that they have. What I promise them is that with regards to Ms. James and regards to Mr. Dabrio, that I would provide more effective and powerful representation. That begins with the lobby. That begins with the advocacy of the needs of the people of St. John's in the parliament of this country, and if God's willing, in the cabinet of this country. So that what you find with regards to representation, everybody says, now there are 15 constituencies, yes, around in Grenada. Now, we have limited resources. So see the 15 constituencies, look at it as a pizza, for instance, with 15 slices. Now, no one constituency can get all of the resources that Grenada has to offer, right? So that all of the issues that have to be addressed in St. John's or St. Mark or Carriacou and Petit Martinique, the resources have to be shared across all these 15 constituencies. And in some cases, it will be ideal for the resources, what is available in the pot of the country, to be shared evenly. But then it may not be so because of specific needs of certain constituencies and so on. So one has to understand that, because you cannot, as I say to persons, I do not wave a magic wand. I do not propose, and any politician that says that they could, we need to take a look at them. In other words, all of the problems, all of the issues and the challenges that confronts the people of St. John would not go away in one day or overnight. But what I promise with regards to an advocacy, I'm in the process of developing what I refer to as a manifesto for St. John's. Okay. Community by community, looking at the different community needs of every community in the parish of St. John, the constituency of St. John. And some of the issues that we have to deal with, as I always say, is not cash intensive. In other words, it is not we have to get $1 million to solve every problem that confronts us. And looking at St. John's, the major issue, the first issue that I believe any serious parliamentary representative need to address is the economy of St. John's. The fishing capital, the tongue of Gulf, right? And we need to make an assessment of the fishing sector in St. John's. Of course, it was hardly hit a couple of months ago with the fishing ban, because so much of the livelihood of our fisher folk, men and women, depends on the exportation of fish to the US and so on. So that was badly hit. So we need to assess, and it is not just Guelph that is engaged in fishing, all right? The community of Guelph, you have other fishing communities like Marigot, where I'm from, Granoy, with the seed net and so on and so forth. How can we expand the fishing sector? How can we train and ensure that our fishermen in 2026 have the best skill set, the latest in technology to improve their catch? How our fisher folk is able to understand the conservation of different fishing species and so on. So those are important issues. The education of our fishermen is of extremely important with modern and modern techniques and so. The other issue we have confronting fisher folks is the security of their livelihood. You have able-bodied fishermen, young and so on, strong. They go, they fish and so on. But what we find, and what I found, and what I know as a fact, is that as our fisher folk gets older and the men are not able to go to sea and so on and to make their livelihood, their lives then become a challenge economically and so on, in terms of the housing stock, in terms of their ability to look and to care for themselves, right? So that's an issue. We need to put in place a financial plan for every fisherman and woman so that as they get in age, they are able to look after themselves and so on and so forth. And that is something that is afflicting some of them. Ill health, they become blind. And I know, for instance, too, in other communities like Woburn and so on, with the diving sector, deep sea diving sector, they suffer from bends and so on, and so forth. So healthcare for fishermen, financial security for our fisher folk and so on, these are extremely important. Now when we speak of the expansion of the economy, now you say to me, and you say to me, how come we are the major fishing community on the island, and all we do is sell fresh fish? Any processing plant, there is no serious fish processing on the island, basically. And I proposed, and I say with all conviction, that one of the things I'll work aggressively towards is to ensure that there is a fish processing plant in the tongue of Gulf, basically. Yeah. What that will do is that it will create further employment, but also to create added value to the fishing sector. We have not really championed. We've had Ministry of Fisheries and so on. All we speak about is exporting fish, but there's something called the bycatch and so on. I give this story all the time, that once I was in a meeting in Brussels when I was in government and so, and one afternoon I went into a restaurant, and what was served in fine diner was sprat. You know what I mean? When we catch sprat in Grand Roy, in Gulf and so on, men throw away sprat, right? And look at what we purchase in tin stuffs like sardines and so on and so forth,
mackerel,
right? And mackerel, all kind of thing. You telling me we cannot? We are in no position in 2026 to package jacks. Fundamentally we look down on what we have, not appreciating that what we have tremendous value and people are looking for it. So we take the mackerel and so on and so forth that other fishing communities in other parts of the world are able to process and sell for us, and we are not thinking about how we can process, all right, our fish stock. Look at something, saltfish for instance, man. You see, get me started, and you get me coffee. Saltfish is codfish.
Yes.
And this codfish historically came from American colonies. Yeah. So what they used to do was to trade the codfish, the salted codfish, which was then used by the plantation owners at the time, to feed the slaves, yes, on the plantations, and in exchange, they would get rum from the Caribbean. Okay. Now that codfish, which we now call saltfish, and which has remained a staple in our diet, right? The saltfish is a staple in our diet. Has impacted with and played this role in afflicting us with hypertension and diabetes, with the amount of salt and so on in our diet. Now, in 2026, we continue to import large volumes of saltfish. And the local cornfish, which we know the amount of salt we put in it, the seasoning and so on that we put in it, is much healthier than the codfish that we have imported for years and it become a staple. And you're saying to me that we're not in a position, the government is not driving it, no one is driving it, and so on and so on. We pay lip service to the subject of fisheries and so. And you're saying to me in 2026, our taste buds, our appetite does not create a demand for our locally procured fish, then we are not ready yet for sustainable development. And I'm saying that there is enough fish in Grenada and so on and so forth. So, like, for instance, when we experience the ban of the export of fish,
yes,
we had no plan B. Fishermen pull up their boat and so on and so forth because there was no market for it and so on. They're going off for fish. The price of fish drop and so on. The consumers benefit, but the fishermen suffered. But there was no plan B, as to what to do with the fish that we have on our hands. And I'm saying that a proper fish processing plant, and ideally, as I say, it should be located in the constituency of St. John's. Because why? We already have the raw output.
Yes.
And that is something I say to my constituents, that if you support Arley, Gill and the DPM, we will deliver. Right? And that's the point I wanted to make It has gone the issue of the potatoes and so on in the parliament that has created national furor. Yeah. I have stayed quiet on the issue because I think that it provided us with a bit of light moment in national debate and discussion. But to me, the subliminal message or the subtle message that wittingly or unwittingly that this episode created. Have you ever seen an indigenous food crop in Grenada, like sweet potatoes, like breadfruit, callaloo, the different ingredients of our national dish? Have you ever seen that presented in the national parliament?
Never did.
Never did. Good. So that I applaud the expertise of the farmers and so on, who are able to produce crops which we do not traditionally produce, and like the Irish potatoes, or to be technically correct, the white potatoes. We could say that. But what it does is that it highlights a non-traditional crop, a non-Grenadian crop on the national platform. We give a non-Grenadian crop a national platform. So when we speak about grow what you eat what you grow, to make Irish potatoes the subject of a national debate, it throws cold water in the face of what we say, eat what you grow what you eat. In other words, and of course, the minister in no way intentionally was thinking about why I would come with Irish potatoes and so on and so forth. But when we think about food sustainability, when we think about national identity, my brother, we ought to speak about the indigenous food crops. And sweet potatoes is a far more nutritious crop. It is what our farmers know, and there is so we are creating a market now for the Irish potatoes, further the import bill, because regardless of the quantity of Irish potatoes that we can produce in Grenada, we cannot compete with the traditional producers of Irish potatoes. We can agree on that. We can't compete. So that the argument is that Irish potato was grown before, but it was never grown in that quantity. Regardless of that, regardless of the quantity of the Irish potatoes that we are producing now, we will never be able to compete with other areas. We will never be able to export. So let us concentrate and reinforce and develop the production of our indigenous crops to create a sustainable way. Let us get our scientists, our food crop specialists and food crop scientists and so on, to develop or to create a species, for instance, of breadfruit, that we can have a supply of breadfruit year round, right? That will we'll be able to deliver on a national dish, not just for ourselves, but for our tourism product and so on and so forth. That, in my respectful view, must be the strategic thinking. You see, so it's not just a matter, we can plant potatoes, we can plant onions, we can plant this and so on and so forth. Let us strengthen where we are strong.
I agree. I totally agree.
So, yeah,
I understand totally where you're going.
Yeah, so that is a subliminal message. Yeah, I certainly feel your passion. We do things without deep thought.
Yeah.
And that is my argument. We do things without deep thought. Obviously, the minister was excited and elated and so on. And of course, he went to the parliament and so on to make a little political mileage and say, hey, under my watch we're producing Irish potatoes. But what he ain't telling me is what has we increased the volume of production in our staple crops on Ireland? That to me is the most fundamental issues.
I agree. Tell me, I'm still going to keep within the constituency. You went in depth in terms.
Right, we went in depth on the fishery sector because I wanted to highlight the fact that we have not maximized the potential of the fishing sector.
All right.
And all of the administrations, NNP, NDC, and so on, they have never maximize the potential, and I just shared with you a perspective with regards to the processing of fish. But more than that, we could continue on the fishery sector.
Right. Tell me, you recently stepped into the launch of in St. John's, the Premier League and so forth, football competition. In this sport initiative, sir, tell me, a sustainable framework or is it a calculated campaign tool, to target young voters ahead of the polls?
Well, I hope they will vote for me. I hope all the footballers will vote for me. But that was not the first thought.
Okay.
Now, I born and grew in Marigot in St. John, and I play a lot of cricket. Cricket is my first love.
Okay.
Softball, hardball, cricket, and I represented St. John's in hardball cricket. I played a fair amount of table tennis as a child growing up, and of course, in those days you had no television, so everybody kicked ball, everybody played football.
Outdoor activities was the key.
Yeah, you play football, you play cricket, and in my time growing up, we had a vibrant, what we call a local football competition in St. John's. Vibrant. In fact, I grew up with St. John's having 3 Premier League teams: St. John's Sports, Ball Wizard, and Uprising. And then Granroy Roots was always in the first division.
Yeah.
Always there or thereabouts, and that's the major team from Granroy. So we have a strong history of football. When men talk about football, men talk about Marquez, men talk about C.J. Williams, men talk about Federman, men talk about Gang, Soup, and all these great footballers, Pecos Lewis, and so on and so forth. So St. John's have been a football powerhouse in this country, and now we are the reigning Premier League champion. But what I have observed over the last couple of years and so on is the decline in sports in the country, in the parish. Decline in football. I will talk about cricket in a while, but we have declined. So that when the organizers of the competition spoke to me, one of the representatives, they said, listen, we are doing this St. John's Premier League football, but we are without sponsor. They did say to me that they had went to the parliamentary representative and asked her assistance, and what she offered them, it was not making any sense and so on. And I said, you see this? Let me give this Sweaters Sports Club is how they call themselves, give them the support. And I was only too happy to do that, because I believe that we need to create, we had what was called growing up Bush League all over the country, my brother. I play a lot of football in Montmorris, in Boucherjou, in places called Power Park, all small football fields, and that the grassroots football is dying, basically. So that it was an opportunity to get on board with the organizers and to ensure that they're able to successfully complete the competition and to give her the prizes. So, and that is a commitment I say to them, that we don't want to just do it in a year of elections, but I hope that we can continue to partner in the future and to ensure that the St. John's Football League is a staple. Also, too, but that's just one sport. We need to look at cricket. As we speak now, there is no tough wicket. No tough wicket at Talbot Peters Park, which is highly unacceptable. No hardball cricket is being played. And while we have not produced maybe the greatest of cricketers on the island, but there are talented young cricketers in St. John's. And we need to ensure that the sport of cricket is being played in St. John's, and that young persons are given, you never know, man, the next Brian Lara or Cotley Ambrose or Junior Murray or Devon Smith can come from the parish, and therefore we need to afford the youths, the youngsters, the opportunities. So St. John's Christian, St. Rose Modern Secondary, and all the primary schools. I played primary school cricket, hardball cricket. For Granroy Government School, we played Concord, we played. All those things needs to be reactivated and rejuvenated, but there's the facility is not there. How can we have that? How can we have serious parliamentary representative when the sports are dying? And that's why I speak to you about the total youth when we get to the youth program. So the issue of sports in St. John's concerns me greatly. St. John's, again, with regards to basketball, has been a powerhouse. Sparklers, right? So that the north centers of basketball traditionally has been Golf, the Carnage, Melville Street, Granans, and Grenville. Right? I mean, basketball, was a super sport on the island, and the guys in Golf continue. And Victoria is definitely a strong basketball community. And the sport of basketball in St. John's meant a lot to us, under the leadership of Coach Naka Joseph and Benji and these guys and so on. And we need to bring back basketball back to its glory days. with give the young people these opportunities to have this sporting talent and so on. And I would the fact that enough emphasis and investment is not being placed in sport. Table tennis. People know Wayne Redded as Wagiti.
Yeah.
I know him as a national table tennis champion for Grenada and within the OECS as a super table tennis player. John, right? We had top table tennis players, and just to say that now, St. John's is the main hub again for table tennis, the sport of table tennis, with Coach Rose, right? And we need a table tennis center for St. John's. When you speak of national stadium and so on, that's what we're talking about, mega projects, right? A table tennis center would not cost the state millions of dollars. It would not. But the young people need a place where they can practice their sport. A place where they're running water, their toilets and so on. You have 4 or 5 table tennis balls where young persons can go on to meaningfully engage, take them off the street. And that's the power of sport, One of the power of sport is not just to get young persons to play professionally and so on and so forth, but to engage them in physical activity and so on. Because when they go to the centers or you go to a coaching program, apart from learning the skill and so on of playing the sport, the coaches inculcate and incorporate personal development in these programs, so that they are engaged, they know how to speak to each other and so on. They get to be involved in dispute, conflict resolution and so on and so forth. So that sport is front and center in my plan for the constituency of St. John, and the rejuvenation, the redevelopment of sport in St. John's, and to see us once again being proud of our footballers, our cricketers, our basketballers, our table tennis players. And for years, the champion long distance athletes have always been from St. John's, not just Kirani James. We have produced Morris Bull Williams, Chixie, Volin Duncan, Philomena, Sabazan, and so on. We have produced some of the best long distance athletes this country has ever seen. And all of these things have died out. Why? And that's why I say to you, when I speak about powerful representation and so on, these are the things that I hold dear and I speak with great passion about.
Tell me this. You recently noted a direct economic link between, historical, systematic, issues, like especially youth hanging out in front of the shops and so forth like that. Tell me this. What explicit, or should I say immediate policy reform will the DPM introduce to transition this, marginalized young men and women, into sustainable employment?
That's a deep question. Let us begin with, we always say to young people this, young people that. Let us begin with providing alternatives for them.
Yes.
So we speak of them living on the street corners and so on. And how do we now attract them to a positive engagement? That's a real challenge for us. How do we attract them into positive engagement? And that is why I said to you, the DPM is all about developing what we refer to as a total youth.
Yeah.
All young people do not have the same interests. Some have interest in sports, culture, agriculture, and so on and so forth. We have to identify where the interest lies and provide the alternative, provide a pathway for them to embark upon a successful career. Now, employment is one thing, but for you to be gainfully employed, you need to have the skill set. Now, for you to have this skill set, there are persons who may not be academically inclined, so to speak. Go and get how much O-level result. These days, you can get 20 subjects, right? Minimal relevance of it. So. Yeah, but we also, I follow the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy Antoine, who coincidentally is also a proud head boy, my proud head boy, when I attended the Grenada Boys Secondary School. And the governor speaks loudly, almost preaching it, that technical subjects continues to be a weak area in our Caribbean development, national development, right? So that we have new hotels being built on the island, and the developers and contractors, they continue to bring in foreign persons to do the finishings. What that says to us is that we are short on masons, we are short on carpenters, joiners, and so on. We don't talk about things like underwater welding for the yachting sector and so on and so forth. So that there is the development of of learning and teaching technical subjects is one of the challenges that any government has, and that is something that the DPM needs to address immediately. And that's why we said some time ago that there needs to be a new campus for the TAMCC. Now, Newlo, which started off in Palmas, and I grew up walking distance from Newlo, has benefited my community of Marigot and the environs, and we have produced, we were strong what I call a construction community. A lot of my colleagues who I grew up with, they are now skilled personnel in construction trade. Newlo cannot do it alone, cannot absorb the volume of young persons who want to learn plumbing, electricals, and so on and so forth. So too is TAMCC. So that there needs to be a dedicated wing of a new TAMCC that deals with technical subjects, where we can furnish our young people with the highest and best skill in terms of the construction trade to begin with. But it does not end there. It speaks to mechanics as well. Now, a lot of the cars are coming hybrid, right? So that the old mechanics and so on may have an issue with electrical issues. They come in all these high-tech computerized programs on these cars and so on and so forth. How do we treat with it? And we have so many young persons, all they need is the opportunity to learn that skill and so on, and they will be good for life. Because there is now the new volume of high-tech cars coming in. So in the field of mechanics, we are in the digital age. The technology, AI, you name it, that's their thing, that's their era, and so on and so forth. What are the platforms are we creating to ensure that our young persons are equipped? They can train to treat, to deal with the development of a new technological advancement that we are experiencing globally. And what technology is doing is that you do not have to be in the developed world to be a master of it. Some of the apps and so on coming out of Africa and Asia and so on and so forth on a daily basis done by young persons. I remember when I was in government and I served for a short time as Minister of ICT, we were able to have an ICT center here, which was sponsored by the Indian government at the time. And that was a program that was, and it's no more. And that is why, you see, you could have this short program, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, have ceremonies and so on and so forth for some ICT training. But that's not sustainable. What we need to do is to be consistent and be persistent with regards to the training of young persons in technology. So there needs to be a school of technology where young persons can experiment and develop new apps and so on and so forth. That's what we are talking about. And that is what a new TAMCC plant will be able to give us a physical space to do so. When we set up the ICT center that I spoke of, we had to first of all look for the spacing. And we got this spacing at GIDC in Frequente. Basically, they afforded us a room there, which the Indians came and retrofitted and so on and so forth. So that there is no space for expansion within the education facilities that we have on island. So that, in answering your question, how do we move the young people from on the side of the streets on the block and so on and so forth into productive engagement? Would not just happen overnight. It will take consistent and persistent and well thought out programs and initiatives funded by government and the private sector over a period of time to really achieve that goal. And it cannot be a program that seeks political patronage And that has been, in my respectful view, the weak link in new development in this country. The NNP as a government, the NDC as a government and a political party, the youthful programs that has been developed over time, what it has done, it has started to create an environment for political patronage. So we say to the young people, I get you a job, vote for me. Right? Because all of the training and so on, what next? What comes after the training and so? How do we... No, the other issue is that the government cannot employ everybody. The world financial institutions and so on are saying to us that you need to look at your public wage bill. So when government speak about you making all the issue of the temporary workers in government service has come about because one, the government needs the service, it needs the labor, but at the same time the government needs to look at its recurrent expenditure. The more your recurrent expenditure increases, is less money you will have for capital projects, right? So that you need to look at your public sector wage bill, so to speak. That's a serious issue. So that in the training and what I call the culturalization sort of young people is for not just to train them to get a work, but to train them also to create jobs opportunities for themselves, create employment, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. They have the skill set, but create the jobs and so on. And also to how we can fit them into the private sector. It is a misnomer. It is misleading. It is insincere for politicians and political parties to sell to our young people and sell to the nation that, listen, we are simply going to employ all of you all. No, you can't. It's not realistic. It is not smart. You cannot do it. You understand? So that we need to be honest too with our young people. We need to be honest with them and say to them, this is what we can do, this is what is possible, and this is what is not possible. They deserve to hear from the political leadership some sense of honesty of what can be done and what cannot be done. And that's not happening. All right.
We drew for a break. Gill, let's take that break. When we come back, we certainly will continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We coming right back.
Country Cold, premier sponsor in collaboration with Power of Worship Radio 92.5 FM. Present a night of worship. A night of worship with 7-time Grammy Award-winning Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir. Friday, June 12th at the Grenada National Cricket Stadium. Gates open at 5 p.m. Worship starts at 6. Free admission. Experience powerful songs like Fill My Cup. Spirits Fall Down.
The month of June will come alive. 4 years ago, we made a decision to move our nation forward. Now, we are stronger and more determined than ever before.
Unity is strength, and we getting stronger.
On Sunday, June 21st, the National Democratic Congress invites you to the biggest celebration of progress, hope, and people-centered leadership at the Montrouge Plainfield for the NDC's 4th anniversary mega rally.
Yellow fever.
Under the powerful theme, 4 years stronger, you, me, us. Thousands will gather in one voice, one heart, and one vision for Grenada's future.
Now we give them yellow fever.
Come hear the leadership shaping tomorrow. The Most Honorable Prime Minister, Dickon Mitchell, Honorable Andy Williams, the South Boss, Honorable Ron Redhead, Senator Claudette Joseph, Honorable Philip Telesford, and more. Experience live performances, electrifying energy, powerful messages of transformation, and the unstoppable spirit of the people of Grenada as we celebrate fathers across the nation and the world. Contact your constituency office for transportation. Bring your flags, bring your family, and most importantly, bring your yellow. Sunday, June 21st from 5 p.m. NDC Mega Rally 2026. 4 years stronger. You, me, us.
Things happening.
At 5 p.m. on August 5th, 1944, the schooner Island Queen sailed out of the St. George's Harbor. On board were some of Grenada's brightest and best sons and daughters. What happened afterwards remains a mystery.
Where Island Queen gone?
Heritage Theatre Company presents Lucy's Straw Hat, a full-length drama written and directed by Chris DeRiggs, a moving story about a family caught up in the drama of this great mystery. Meet Mammy Sylvie, a woman with a secret too heavy to keep but too painful to reveal.
I'm asking for forgiveness for not telling you the truth.
Pa John, the war veteran.
Sometimes I sit here feeling so helpless, so crushed.
Hyacinth, always ready to do mischief.
You don't see the woman Uncle Norris married? She face ugly enough to turn milk.
Lucy, beautiful and headstrong.
I had a dream, Mommy, but Hyacinth was there, holding my hand.
Lucy's Straw Hat at Grenada Trade Center on Saturday 13th and Sunday 14th June, and at the Luke Cinema on Saturday 20th and Sunday 21st June. All shows 7 p.m. Advance tickets $60, $75 at the door. Come join us.
Where Island Queen gone?
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point Classic Radio. We're in the final moments of this particular segment this morning. I have one more question I want to throw at Mr. Gill, and of course, we certainly will invite your calls from your listeners and viewers. And this question is formally into even the season that we are into right now, cultural season, as some folks would say. Now, as a former Minister of Culture, Spice Mass, Chairman, and so forth, you have championed, Grenada's unique heritage, like the jab culture. How does the DPM plans to monetize the creative arts, the carnival industry, so that young Grenadians, creatives can build a full-time, lucrative career locally?
And thank you so much for that question. And this is a subject for me that is close to the heart, and one that I'm very passionate about. Before this buzzword of creatives was floating around, I was working with the creatives. And let me just remind listeners and viewers of some of the things that, and I had to explain that to some people a couple of weeks ago.
Hope we get a shorter version this time.
Yes, short, yes, because I know we run out of time.
Yeah.
I developed in my time as ministry, not just the Spice Mass, but the Tanti Tech Word Festival,
yes,
the Comahan Folk Festival, and so on. So the issue of the creatives is not just in the calypso music and the soca. There's a misnomer sometimes that people think that anytime we speak about culture, we talk about carnival and jab and so on. There's a wide, broader perspective of that. And I also set up in my time the Grenada Fashion Association, which did not survive for very long. I also established a Grenada Film Commission. Right, and when we speak about film, we aren't just talking about Hollywood movies and so on. We're talking about advertisements. People come Paradise Island and so on, big companies and so on. You market your space for advertisements in large companies and so on and so forth. So the film and then short films and so on can be done. So there's a whole wide area of the creative sector that we need to tap into, and I dare say that I started to, in my time, to work out the broad parameters of that. So it's not just the job. So, and that is one of the things, because you see, as I said, you have people with different interests, different people with different talents, and so on, and you have to try to capture that as much as you can, not just the singers and so on. Now, having said that, I want to place on record that I believe that this administration have taken the creative sector seriously.
Okay.
You understand? First time you hear that from a politician?
First time.
Yes. No, I believe that they have not gotten everything right. Right? I believe that there needs to be more deep thought with regards to how we make these strategic investments in the sector and so on. But for me to come and say that nothing happened in the creative sector would be untruthful and dishonest. I think that this administration, with the guys in culture, Orlando and so on, their heart is in the right place in terms of the creative sector, and I applaud them for doing so. And they can feel free if they want to bounce off an idea for me on certain issues. Feel free. I say to people, see one thing about culture and no politics, brethren.
I agree.
Politics, I say that all the time. I've been saying that from the time I started off in politics to now. Culture, take your hands off. Politics takes your hands off
culture.
Of culture, right? Because you have persons, and I respect who may support one party, support the next, and so on. That's a matter for them. But when they come to make the cultural contribution, you allow them to do so uninhibited and no political influence and so on and so forth. If a man wants $1 and he's supporting an MP, but he's a singer, he's a producer, he's a studio man, support that man. You understand? And that has been my position. So that let's look at the music sector critically.
Yeah.
We have singers, and we are proud of Modi and these guys who, for the last year, who have had massive hits across the region in soca music. And I know that the government, or through the Ministry of Creative and so on, they have made some investments in studios, music studios, which is good. But one thing is lagging. We don't have musicians. We don't have bands. And I developed, as Minister of Culture then, the issue of music laboratories in major secondary schools.
Certainly remember that.
And I hope that is something that if that was executed by in my time or shortly thereafter, we wouldn't have that problem. So that I say to my friends in the music industry, Charpri and some boss, I really don't want to pay $40 and $50 to see all the singing and tracks, you know. I want to see a live musician behind you, a guitarist, a drummer, and so on and so forth. Because for the music, look at the Jamaicans have mastered it. You don't have to look far. No. The Jamaicans have mastered when Buju Banton come and this come and that come. You see they work with the musicians. Now so that not only the singers have been paid, the musicians have been paid. People can make a livelihood, and that is how you build a creative sector on an industry. The problem with us now is that we're not really building a serious and sustainable cultural industries sector as an industry. A couple people are making dollars, right? We could speak of the name of the artists on one hand, maybe, who do their music full-time and who have a sustainable living. But that is not sufficient. That's not what we're talking about. So that the entire cultural sector needs to grow together. So right now we are the singers out front there, but when you look back, you can't see nobody. Right? I don't know the level of the income of the studio owners and so on and so forth. Right? Then the issue now of the rights. How these guys, are they registering their music with different copyright societies? Well, I know the major artists, Vaughn and Killer and Pre, and so these guys, they register in court and elsewhere, so that they I call it the pension of the music, right? So, but they record the music. What is the input of the guys who do the arrangement and the production? Are their rights being secured in a serious way? Is it that when they leave the studio and they pay the producer for the song, is it at the end of the financial stream for the producer and so on? So that we need to have an in-depth conversation of how can we develop, how can we establish a serious music industry, for instance, in the country. And that is where the DPM will take us. We need to go next level. Yeah, it's not just a man going on a stage and sing. And I say to artists all the time, I say, you the package. You the package. Just as how you see how goods are attractively wrapped on a shelf.
Yes.
When you go on a stage, you have to be attractively wrapped. And I say to them, you can't just line with me by the bar in an event, and the next time I see you with the same clothes on the stage. No, I'm the paying patron and so on. Come on. Even who college students and so on always had when you see they come in an event, they always had a little suit bag and so on. They put on like a pretty shirt, put on something, put on a little pretty shirt. Okay, you're not wearing shirt anymore. You're a little bad jacket and so on. Yeah. But Randy, Isaac, and Specky and so on from the old school, they always do that. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done with educating our artists. There are a lot of structures that need to be had with regards to developing the financial streams for the music. Like for instance, one of the things, a couple of years ago, you had Boise making a stand with regards to the prize monies for the Soca Monarch artists and so on. And the government paid it and so on and so forth. Now, that is one issue. And that is why I say to many, we have to think about these things strategically. The majority of Calypsonians and soca artists who sing every year, GT, they don't make no money. The prize money, 1, 2, 3, is only for 1 or 2, 3 artists.
Yes.
We need to look at increasing the appearance fees across the board from semi-finals go right up, because the production starts there. If at least we can cover the expenses of a reasonable production, because I say to artists, not because you're singing about a plane, you have to go and get a plane and put on the stage. You know what I mean? So we're going to go MBIA and see if we can rent a plane. No, you have no money for that. But the appearance fees at the semi-final to the final levels and so on, those need to be increased so that more artists can cover the initial expenses. It's not just a winner take all. So that's why I say you need to have a structured, reasoned approach to these things. It's not just the noise in the market. You know what I mean? You have to look at this thing critically. There are Calypsonians and artists who have sung for years, boss, and they have nothing to show.
All right.
You know,
we quickly running out of time. I'll give you opportunity to our callers if they may want to ask a question or two, because I know you're also a very busy man. We do have our first caller. Caller via the direct line. Good morning, and thanks for your patience. Good morning.
Greetings, how are you?
We're doing good, sir. Go right ahead, please.
Can Mr. Gill hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear, my brother.
Very succinct. One, Mr. Gill, you know that term, deja vu? There we are again. We've been there before. Nothing of the questions and answers which you have offered there this morning is new to us. We've heard that the 9 administrations, I think they were since independence, so-called. Everything we come is the same thing over, but we're not getting anywhere, are we? So I ask the question, first question after this comment, how far you as the deputy political leader of the new organization presenting yourselves to take the affairs of this country forward are prepared to go in the reconstitution of our nation? 2, Mr. Gill, sir. And I'm challenging you here as a lawyer, as a barrister, whichever we there's another one for it. You insulted this nation recently. Last question I asked you when you were there prior. You said to me upon question you relative to the actions taken, which you supported in July last year, to modify the constitution of the so-called constitution of this country and introduce 2 laws. I can't remember the number, I think 25 and 26, which had to do with the oath of office. Oath of allegiance, pardon. And you openly said to the public, I have no regrets in supporting. That was not my question. My question was the action taken legal? Therefore, sir, I ask you this question and give you a task. With the modern technology, you certainly can do it in a matter of 10 seconds. Can you define to the people of this country what the word SHEDULE pronounced schedule in certain jurisdictions? What this word means according to the glossary of the United Nations Kingdom, which was intrinsically related to ours because we are a colony of Grenada. Can you prove by reading that document, that definition, that in fact the action that you people took, and you as a lawyer above all, to modify or word in place, altered the constitutional provision, section 111, by separating Schedule 3 from it? I trust that my questions are understood, sir. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Will you?
Thank you, sir. Have a good morning. For your call. You want to respond to the caller?
The first statement the caller made support why he should vote for the DPM. He said 9 administrations and then do anything and so on for it before. So that is why calling must try the DPM, and that's why we say to the nation that you must try the DPM, because you have witnessed all other administrations in the past, and from your mouth you said that they have not done anything of what I have spoken about this morning. So that should be sufficient to convince you that the movement is the way to go. With regards to the constitutional issue, as I've said to you, I support and I will continue to support the oath of allegiance to the state of Grenada. I am not a monarchist. I would not pledge. I do not want to pledge any allegiance to the King of England. I have issues with the King of England. I think that is known globally. I ask the King of England all the time to pay reparations and to apologize for slavery and the slave trade. I think my position on these issues are clear, and I support the government initiative to with regards to the oath of allegiance. What I continue to call for is a comprehensive constitutional reform. And I have said to you before, caller, when you call in another program, that the DPM is committed to have a comprehensive constitutional reform. I think that is needed 52 years after independence.
All right, we do have another caller. Caller via WhatsApp. You're live. Good morning. Go right ahead, please, and be brief.
JT, good morning. Mr. Gill, what is the DPM position on citizens of Grenada living in the diaspora coming home and vote? Do you think that they should spend 12 months in Grenada also to vote? Another question. All right, in St. John's, all right?
Caller, for some reason, I'm not sure if you're using a Bluetooth device or something, but for some reason, we're not getting you that clear this morning. So you may have to repeat your first question, and maybe you can talk directly into the phone. It may help.
Okay, I'm outside, so I don't do that very fine. Okay, my question, I want to know what is his party views on citizens of Grenada in the diaspora coming home and vote? And if you think that Grenadians have to be like 12 months, the people who live in the diaspora, for them to take part in the election. And my second question was that that Kieran James won by 7 seats, all right? And now we see an increase, all right, in voters, all right? And then also we know Peter David win on the NNP ticket by 211. From 800 at the previous election, all right? So I'm asking, what do you think is your party chance in the next election? And how many voters did your party bring to the forefront?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. You want to respond to the caller?
Yeah, briefly, because I know we're on the time. I'll start with the second one first. I will say to the caller that not only now, this election or cycle, that we've seen an increase in the registration of voters. In St. John's, what we have seen is an increase in the registration of voters for the last election cycle, but we've seen a decrease in the amount of person going out and actually voting. So that is something that it must concern us. With regards to the numbers of persons and what they won by, I give the classic example of some years ago in 2003, George Prime in Caracou lost the seat to Mr. Elvin Nimrod of blessed memory by some 6-7 votes. And the next election in 2008, Mr. Nimrod was able to win that seat with a far more comfortable margin. So that, be careful of how we analyze the data. And what is unknown as we analyze the data for the next elections is that there was no third party. Right, so that you could speak about the NNP and the NDC and so on, and the figures for the last elections, but there was not a third option. And I can say to you that both the NNP and the NDC are bleeding because the DPM is taking voters on both sides. It's a misnomer to think that only the people think that. A lot of people say, oh, you're taking NNP votes. No. Taking out our NDC votes too. I'm taking most of our NDC votes in St. John's. That's the intention. Because as I said, and when you said about the chances and so on, I've said earlier in this program that the DPM will form the next government. And you could hold me to that. The DPM will form the next government. Remember, I said that on GT program, on To The Point. All right. And then the other issue was the first question was... I
think it was something related to voters having to spend 12 months.
Yes. Well, that's an issue. As the law now is, one, I don't think we should disenfranchise Grenadians in the diaspora. I don't believe in that at all. I believe that they make a contribution to national development by their investments and other things. And they are Grenadians. They're sleeping abroad. They are Grenadians first and foremost, and we don't want to disenfranchise Grenadian people. What structures and so on we put in place to ensure. I don't believe 12 months is quite a lot, because the persons in the diaspora, they live and they work out there. I don't think, So that is a subject. It's an issue for a national discussion, all right. But I think the starting point must be that we do not, we should disenfranchise persons in the diaspora.
All right. We may accept one more caller, and then we take a wrap for today's, and then we get some closing contributions from you. So caller via WhatsApp, and I beg of you to be brief, please, because you will be our caller that will wrap the calling segment. Go right ahead, please.
Good morning, Jihadin, brother.
Doing good. Go right ahead,
and
please.
Good morning to Mr. Gill. Good morning to Mr. Gill. My good friend, man. You know what I'm saying? That's Baba here. Mr. Gill, you spoke about the artists and them not making money, right? And I do agree with you on that point. But now we're hearing that our artists and them has lost their visa to go to the States and go, to sing. So how would these artists and them make money if they can't travel right now? What is the implication of this artist for this season? How they would make it? And we are not hearing nothing from our government based on that. So I would like to speak on that just a little bit. Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, the issue in the U.S. with our artists' access to that market is bothersome, to say the least, and it is putting tremendous pressure on our creative community. So we move from banning fishing now to almost banning artists. The government has to assist, I believe, in assisting these artists to get work permits in the U.S. I think the work permits are the issue, and the U.S. is demanding that persons cannot perform with a simple visitor visa as they would have done. So there has been, I think I don't need to go into what is happening to the U.S. with regards to President Trump and all of the policies and so forth. I think we all understand that. But it means that we have to do more now, and do more. The U.S. are demanding that they do the work permits and that they pay the taxes and so on. So it's something that is more demanding of us. And I believe that the artists cannot stand alone. They can't take the pressure by themselves. They need assistance from the government to help them to meet the requirements of the U.S., and that is extremely important. Right. So I think that is where we need to go with that.
All right. Mr. Gill, I want to thank you for coming on the program this morning. I hope to have you back in the soonest. I mean, I know we could have gone more in depth if time permit. There's lots more we could have, of course, conversed with this morning. Anything in closing before you take a wrap?
Well, I hope you invite me when I'm not wearing the political hat, because I think we have a lot to talk about with our common interest about the music and so on. And I know that so we could have a conversation on that. And that the last point the caller was making there is important as well. We need of national conversation on those issues in a structured way before we can assist our artists. I just want to thank you very much for having us here and affording the opportunity of the DPM to share its views and perspectives, and we treasure the moments, the facility that you afforded us, and to say to our listeners and to the Grenadian public that we of the DPM ask of you to give us a chance to listen to us, hear what we are saying, and so on and so forth. And I believe that at the end of it, you will find that we do represent the best opportunity and the best chance, the best option for Grenada at this time. I always say that we have the more mature and seasoned and experienced political leader in that of Peter David, who I believe is a nationalist, a committed Grenadian who has sacrificed a lot and continue to do so for the national development. And with him, I think we have the most able and competent team that the Grenadian public is on offer at the next general election. So you're the movement, I am the movement, and we move together. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, sir, and best wishes for the rest of the day. And as I mentioned, hope to have you back soon.
Yes.
I'll be back soon. Hey, folks, we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. Thanks all again to all who contributed. Have a good day, folks. Goodbye.